All right, overall, good job on quizzes yesterday. We just took a look at those here in class. A couple big things that I noticed for students in here that may have affected you if you're watching on video as well. Some students tried to do the boink, boink, boink thingy on King Henry in their head, and when they went to do it on paper, they miscounted the boinks, or they forgot how many boinks. So my encouragement to them in the class was show the boinks on King Henry, show the boinks on the number. The other thing that I encouraged them to do was pay attention to the direction of the boinks. There were a few students who boinked the right number of times, but they should have boinked left and they boinked right. And so we want to pay attention to the vice versa. I guess for you, this would be left and right and left. Anyway, but pay attention to the direction of the boinks. So I showed them, if you're going this direction on King Henry, make sure you go the same direction with the decimal in the value. That's kind of wraps up the metric system for now. We'll obviously revisit it. But yesterday we began studying class our units of time. And remember we said time isn't US or metric. Time is universal. We all use the same units of time all around the world. And so these units don't fall into US or metric systems here. All of us in the world know that 1 minute equals 60 seconds. We also have an hour divided into 60 minutes. We know that a day consists of 24 hours. 7 days in the week. This one might be harder for some of us. This isn't a number we use all the time.
52.
About 52. Notice the squiggly equal sign here. That means approximately equal to. It's actually 52 weeks plus an extra day, except on leap years and there's the 2 days. Yes, sir?
On the test or quiz, if that pops up, do we have to put about?
Yeah, great question. He says, do we have to put on a quiz or test the about or the squiggle equals? If they give you the squiggle equals, no. They've already provided that for you. If they don't provide the squiggly equals, you'll put the squiggly equals. Yep, good question. Good. Or just say about. You could write the word about. I'm lazy. I'd rather put a squiggle equals than write out about because I'm lazy. Most of us know this one as well. 365 days. And then on the leap year, 366. How often do leap years occur? Every 4 years. Unless the year ends in double zero, then we pass on the leap year unless the double zero year happens to also be divisible by 400, then we'll go ahead and make it a leap year, like the year 2000 and the year 2400 if the Lord tarries. And back in 1600, that would have been a leap year also. 12 months in the year. 10 years in the decade. 20 years in a score of years. 100 years to the century, and of course, 1,000 years to the millennium. I'm going to go and mix these measures of time in with our other measures now. And let's go ahead and review over all of our US units. Again, metric units, just boink correctly. Remember King Henry, boink correctly. But there's a lot we still need to work on. There's several students in here who we don't have our units perfectly memorized yet. So we'll do a little bit more work, but we'll mix the units of time in amongst them all. Let's go row on row here. And let's start over here with row 3.
16.
16. Remember, a pint's a pound with a roll around, so a pint's going to be 16 fluid ounces. Row 2.
12.
12 inches. Good, Kirsten.
24.
24. Michael, just a hair ahead of you there, Bryson.
7.
7. Elaine again.
2000.
2,000. Ben, 2,000 pounds in the ton.
580.
What? 5,280.
I think I heard them both say 5,280. It was just very loud and very rushed. If you could discern that on video, more power to you. All right, coming back over here.
8.
8 fluid ounces in the cup. Remember, cup's a half pint, right? So half a pint, 8 fluid ounces, half the pound, so to speak. All right.
6.
2. Sam got it. 2 pints in the quart.
4,000.
1,760. Again, it's kind of indiscernible. I'll tell you what, I'll give you guys, since you got both of the big ones I couldn't discern, I'll give you another one. 36 inches in the yard. 60 seconds in the minute.
4.
4 pecks in the bushel. Sam, that's the one you always got in. 3. I think I got it in the back there. I couldn't tell if it was Luciana or Michael, one of them. 12 months in the year. 365 days in the year. There we go, Sam. About 52. That was definitely Bryson that time.
4.
4 quarts in the gallon.
366
days in the leap year.
2.
2. It is 2 tablespoons in a fluid ounce, remember. 2 tablespoons. 2 scoops of mashed potatoes. Just kidding. All right, 2 tablespoons in the fluid ounce. 20 years in a score. 10 years in the decade, Ben. 16 ounces in the pound. It was a tie, a few way tie, I think. 2 cups in the pint.
4. 8.
8 quarts in the peck. Remember, 4 quarts to a gallon in liquid measure, but 8 quarts of dry measure to the peck.
3.
3, that was Luciana.
100.
100 years to the century. 60 minutes in the hour.
1,000.
I think that was everybody. 1,000 years in the millennium. 16, we're back around to the beginning again. 16 fluid ounces in the pint. Make sure you're working on these. If you feel like you've got them, especially those of you who've been here for a long time, you've memorized these, great, you don't have to work on them as much. But you say, I'm still not knowing these. Be honest with yourself and spend the time studying that you need to. You've got to have those numbers memorized. Let's take a look at your homework now, page 227. Not a whole lot of units in the homework, a little bit more of a review type homework assignment, page 227. And you did numbers 27 to 37 in this review section. 27 to 37 on pages 227 and 228. So books should be open to page 227. Be ready to flip the page. Excellent. Good. Flip the page. Good. Flip it. Good. Flip it. Good. Flip it. Yep. Good. And good. Okay, get some people ready to flip the page. Excellent. Excellent. And you decided to work all the way to the end there. We hadn't gotten into signed numbers yet. We'll look at those more later. But not a problem if you worked ahead necessarily. Number 27, 40 kiloliters. How many deciliters, Bryson?
400,000.
400,000. Number 28, 0.24 milliliters. How many centiliters, Sam? 0.024. Number 29, 89 liters. How many hectoliters, Ben?
0.89.
0.89 is correct. Number 30, the monarch butterfly goes 3,000 miles from Canada to Mexico. So how many feet does the... Hold on here. That's one way. Canada to Mexico every fall, one way 3,000 miles. But it goes back again in the spring. So how many feet does the monarch butterfly travel in a year? So we've got to account for both of the trips here. Jalen, what'd you get? What was your answer number 30?
15,840,000.
Close. You found one way, but we want to also account for the other trip. What was the full answer there, Kirsten?
31,680,000.
Yeah, if you read it too quickly, like I almost did, 31,680,000 feet, because it asked for both directions, right? Spring it travels up to Canada, fall it travels back down to Mexico. So that's 6,000 miles. That needed to be multiplied by the 5,280. Yes, ma'am. Go around. Number 31, Theron, or Theron? Theron? Theron, okay. Walked home and he counted 9,800 paces. That's how many steps he took. For him, he's a tall guy. So his pace is 3.5, bless you, feet. How many miles is his school from his home? Ooh, we had to do a couple steps here. First class, we need to multiply. The 9,800 steps that he took, or paces, times the 3.5 feet in every step. This will give us how many feet his journey travels. But it asked how many miles. What am I going to have to do once I get my number of feet, class?
Divide.
Divide, because we're going from smaller feet to larger miles. We're going to have to divide that by 5,280 feet are in the mile, remember. And we round this answer to the nearest tenth. What did we get for our answer, Bryson?
6.5.
6.5 miles. Who else had 6.5? Luciana did. The rest of us did. Let's work it real quick. So, first of all, I don't want to multiply by a decimal, class, so I'm going to knock off the decimal and 1 0. We all good with that? Then we're going to multiply 5 times nothing,
0.
5 times 8,
40.
5 times 9 plus 4,
49.
put the 0, now 3 times 0,
0.
3 times 8,
24.
3 times 9 plus 2.
29.
By the way, quick note, a lot of times when you start with the multiplied 0, I've noticed a lot of you are forgetting to put the lead 0, the initial 0. Be careful, make sure we don't make that mistake. We add and we get 34,300 feet that Pharaoh has to travel to get home. That gets divided by 5,280. But does anyone remember a shortcut we can use here?
Knock off 2 zeros.
Knock off this 0 with one of those zeros, right? So now we make it 3,430 divided by 528. This makes it a little easier. Class 5 goes into 34? 6 times. Now I've got 1, 2, 3 digits. I've got 1, 2, 3 digits. The 6 has to line up here. 6 times 8.
48.
Carry the 4. 6 times 2 plus 4.
16.
Carry the 1. 6 times 5 plus 1.
31.
31. We're going to subtract a little bit here. 10 minus 8.
2.
2.
Do a little more borrowing. 12 minus 6.
6.
And 3 minus 1.
2.
2. Is that smaller than 528?
Yep.
Yes.
It is. I'm going to tack on a 0.0 and bring down a 0. 5 goes into 26 class.
5.
5 times. 5 times 8.
40.
40.
Carry the, 4's already up here. 5 times 2 plus 4.
14.
Carry a 1. 5 times 5 plus 1.
26.
Oh, I just missed it, didn't I? But class, be lazy. Since I just missed it, I couldn't use a 5. Technically, class, I have to use a 4. But whenever you barely miss it, the next number is almost always a 9 anyway. And it said to round. Even if it were an 8 or a 9 is going to do what to the 4 class?
Round it up.
Bump it up to a 5. Since we're rounding the nearest 10th, I'm going to just leave it right there. I'm not even going to finish the problem. I'm going to say it's about 6.5 miles. Questions on that? Yes, ma'am?
How do you do number 30?
Yeah, so number 30, monarch butterfly in the spring goes from Mexico up to Canada. That's 3,000 miles. And then in the fall, weather's about to get cold, monarch butterfly goes back down to Mexico, another 3,000 miles. So all told, that's 6,000 miles. But the question said, how many feet is that? So we need to multiply that by 5,280. What I'm going to, because we're going from large miles to small feet, I'm going to knock off all 4 zeros and set them off to the side. And I'm going to multiply 6 times 528. And we get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's our answer, right? So just taking care of both journeys. And again, what Jalen gave us was the single route trip. She gave us from Canada down to Mexico. She forgot about the return trip that follows. So her answer was exactly half of what the final answer would have been. Good question. Good. Any other questions on these first few? Yes, ma'am.
So on number 30, I would have been right if I just multiplied that by 2.
Right. So yeah, if Jalen had taken her answer and doubled it, multiplied it by 2, she would have had the correct answer. All right, let's turn the page. Number 32. 57% of 7,500 class. What does of mean?
Multiply.
When you have both sides of it, it means you multiply. So that's what we're going to do. But 57% has to become a decimal. 0.57 though. You see those 2 zeros? And I got 2 decimal places. I'm going to make it just a 57. And I'm going to knock off the 2 zeros and make it a 75. And we'll multiply straight up. What do we get for our answer on 32, Luciana?
4,275.
4,275. Number 33. When it asks you for a percent, class, you make a fraction. What fraction do we make on number 33, Michael?
3 over 24.
3/24. Now let's reduce that down. Before we go dividing anything, class, try to reduce first. 3/24 class reduces to
1/8.
But we know what 1/8 is as a decimal. At least we better know what it is as a decimal, class. 125. And if we just go boink boink, class, we get
12.5%.
12.5% or 12.5% for our answer. Number 34. When you divide, that's what a fraction mark means, right? We divide by 1,000, class. All you have to do is move the decimal. How many places? 3. However many zeros there are, right? That's the whole premise, by the way, of the metric system. You're multiplying or dividing by powers of 10. Ben, are you awake?
I'll try.
Do you need to stand in the back? Help you stay awake?
Sure.
Why don't you go and stand behind Kirsten? Help you stay awake there. And you can kind of use the desktop that's behind her. If Kirsten will move that binder that's on the desk behind her, give some room to Ben. Ben, take your book back there with you so you can kind of follow along. So we're dividing by 1,000, class. When we divide by a power of 10, which direction is the decimal move? Left. Remember, multiply right, divide left. Mr. Driver's license. Dumb, but if it helps you remember. So we're going to take the 25.7, we're going to move the decimal class to the
Left.
left 3 places, boink, 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 and we get 0.0257. It's been a while since we've done that, other than in the metric system. How many got that for 34? How many like, I forgot, but I remember it now? All right, don't you forget it. Number 35, we're subtracting fractions, but we can't subtract fractions, Ben, unless we have a...
Common denominator.
What's the best common denominator for 6 and 8, Ben?
24.
24. Could you use 48, class?
Yeah.
But 24 is better. I like that Ben said 24. What did you get when you subtracted there, Ben? Number 35.
1 and 1 6.
Doesn't reduce down to 1 and 1/6. Sam? Huh? Say that louder so I can hear you.
Like the answer?
Yeah, the answer. What'd you get?
Like the 2, the 1,
2 and 1? No. Okay, so let's check this. We got 3 and 5, 6. I'm going to write it stacked because I feel like that's going to be an easier way for us to see it. And of course, you could certainly do this on your paper. We already said we're going to get denominator 24. Class, here, multiply top and bottom by to get 20 24s. Oh, I know what you did, Ben. Here, multiply top and bottom class by
3.
to get.
21.
Can I, class, subtract 21 24ths minus 20 24ths?
No.
We don't go this way. Can I take 20 24ths minus 21 24ths?
No.
I can't. I have to, but I can't. Which means we're gonna have to
Borrow.
borrow from the 3, make it a,
2.
and the one that I borrow becomes what, class?
4.
24 24ths, remember. That adds on to the already 20 24ths we had, which gives us what all the way up here, class?
44.
44 24ths. Now we can subtract. We'll get 23 24ths, and of course 2 minus 1 is 1. How many had 1 and 23 24ths? Careful on that. Number 36, really easy. How many decimal places are going to be in the answer here? Corey?
4.
4. What was your answer?
0.0516.
Good. When you just multiply by the 1, it's just 516, but we need 4 decimal places. So boink, boink, boink. Boink, the last point becomes an extra 0. 0.0516. And number 37, what is 1/4% as a decimal? Griffin.
0.0025.
Good. Initially 0.25% becomes 0.0025. Excellent job. Questions on that part of the homework? Any questions on those? Anyone perfect on those 6 that are at the top of this page?
No.
Anyone perfect on all 6 of them? All right, any questions? All right, if you would, flip over to page 234. Flip over, if you would, to page 234. And I want you to do numbers 59 and 60 at the top of the page. Page 234, do those 2 word problems, 59 and 60 at the top of the page. Take a look at page 224 real quick, and then we'll be right back here. 224. Okay, we went over it in class. Why didn't you do it with us? Why didn't you do that? Don't just sit there and check out. You cannot do that. You must stay focused. I'll give you a shot in study hall and make it up. You've got to take responsibility. You're ready to sit there in the junior high now. You're not a little elementary kid. You're a young man. Finished your question?
Question.
Yeah. I figure out how much in degrees something changed. How to find percent of decrease. Oh, class, how do we find percent of change?
Change over original.
Yep, change over original. right, number 59, class, temperature. And I watched this happen often. I don't know if you've ever paid attention to this in the summertime here in Georgia, when the rain comes through in the summer, and just how different the temperature is right after the rain comes through. I was a cross-country runner in high school. I know it's hard to believe, so I would run many miles a day. And in the summer times, when I had to do my training, I would wait till after a rainstorm because it was just too hot during the day. If I didn't get out early in the morning, it was going to be too hot to want to run. So I'd wait. Usually in Pensacola, you get some thunderstorm come through and knock it down from 90 to about 80. And right after the rain, that's when I'd go do my run. And so that's what's happening here. 87 degrees. This isn't perhaps summertime here in Georgia. It'd be maybe somewhere up north where it's not quite as hot. I don't know. But after a rainstorm, temperature plunges all the way down to 69 degrees. Class, how much did the temperature drop? 18 degrees. How do we find that?
Subtract.
Just subtract, right? And then once we found the change, class, to find the percent of change or percent of decrease, class.
Change over original.
So I'm going to put that change over. Now, which one was the original, class? 87. Now, I can reduce a little bit here. I can divide what out of both top and bottom?
3.
I can divide a 3 out, right? If you look at the sum of the digits here, adds up to 15. I can at least divide out a 3. Is it necessary? I don't know. Will it help? I don't know. 3 goes into 8, class. Twice with 2 left over. 3 goes into 27. 9 times. So we at least get it down to 6/29. We're going to put the top number in the house. The bottom one stands guard outside. Put on a whole bunch of zeros here, class. Think 30 here, or think 3. Class, sometimes it's 3 going to 6. 2 times. 2 times 9.
18.
Carry the 1. 2 times 2 plus 1.
5.
5. There we go. Subtract 60 minus 58.
2.
2. Bring down a 0. Can 29 go into 20, class? No. So bring down another 0 after putting a 0 here. Now, did it say to the nearest tenth of a percent? Nearest whole percent. How many times will 3 go into 20, class? 6. At least. But it doesn't matter. As long as this is at 5 or bigger, and it will be, it's going to bump this up to a 1. So we'll say the percent of decrease was 21%. How many had this for number 59? Oh, folks. This is old news. Questions? Okay. We used this term once before when a salesman makes a sale. He gets a piece of the pie. For like big things, like houses, cars, even furniture sometimes. Jewelry salesmen do this as well oftentimes. What do we call that piece of the pie? Anyone remember? It's a big long word, starts with a C. Commission, right. So a realtor's commission, a realtor fee, is just his commission on the selling price of a house. They sold a house for $415,000. The realtor's commission rate is 4.5%. What do you suppose we should do, class? Multiply. He gets 4.5% of the selling price. Did you see that? Read number 60. Mr. Myers sold the house. He paid 4.5% of that selling price. Of means multiply. But we're not going to write 4.5%, class. We're going to make it a decimal. Go 1 point and make it 0.045. Now notice 3 decimal places, right? Conveniently, class, 3 zeros. So I'm going to make this a 45, and I'm going to leave this as just a 415. It just needs very quickly multiply. And once you've got the realtor's fee, once you've got the realtor's commission, go ahead and call it out to me.
18,675.
All right, somebody already had it. There we go, Elaine. 18,670. Now think about that, folks. You sell 3 houses a year, you're making decent money. You sell 4 houses a year at that kind of commission, I mean, you're living, you're not in the middle class anymore. You're moving up toward the upper crust there. So, yeah, that's pretty decent money. You don't have to sell a whole lot of houses a year. You understand why so many people want to become realtors? Problem is there's a lot of realtors, they all want to sell the houses. It's a competitive market there. But, yes, sir.
I was going to answer the question.
Yes, sir.
I was going to answer that.
Oh, you're going to answer the question. Gotcha. All right, water bottle on the floor. All right, turn back if you would to page 226 now. Turn back to page 226. And we did a lot of conversions in the metric system, but all the conversions in the metric system involved point, or point, or whatever, how many points, you know. And but in the U.S., everything revolved around smaller to larger
Multiply.
Oh.
Picture it,
Divide.
smaller to larger,
Divide.
divide larger to smaller,
Multiply.
and the same rules can be used when converting units of time. We're still going to use larger to smaller, multiply, smaller to larger, divide. Look at the examples at the top of page 226. 5 years equals how many months? Well, first of all, class, which is bigger, a year or a month? A year. So we're starting with years, we're going to months, we're going to multiply. Next thing we have to do is ask ourselves, how many months are in a year? And we answer ourselves 12. And so they multiply by 12, they got 60 months. Seem easy?
Yeah.
Look right below it. 28 days, how many weeks? Well, which is bigger, class, a day or a week?
A week.
A week is bigger. So we're starting with the smaller, we're going to the larger, so we should divide. And we're going to divide by how many days in a week? 7. So they did that, they got 4 weeks. Seem pretty easy converting units of time. Same rules that the U.S. customary system uses. So at your seats, I want you to do numbers 13 to 18 on page 227. Page 227, do numbers 13 through 18. In each case, ask yourself, larger to smaller or smaller to larger? And then multiply or divide accordingly. Straighten your chair. There, all the way around.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Just another minute or so to be finishing up. Just doing 13 through 18. Pencil down once you got it. It is 13 through 18. I'm noticing several of you going home like, what's taking them so long? That's what's taking you so long. You're working ahead. Perhaps unintentionally. All right, looks like most of us are done then after all. Good, let's go ahead and pause there. Then number 13, 36 months. How many years do we get, Michael?
3.
3 years. Number 14, 6.5 centuries. How many years, Luciana? 650. Number 15, 56 days. How many weeks, Bryson? 8. Number 16, 540 seconds. How many minutes, Jalen? 9 minutes. Number 17, 8 hours. How many days do we have here? Sam?
2/4.
Not 2/4. Ben?
1/4.
Not 1/4. How many hours in a day, class?
24.
24, right? So are we going from larger to smaller or smaller to larger here, Sam? Smaller to larger, we need to divide. So we're going to divide the 8, Sam, by 24. What does that reduce to? What do we divide out of the top and bottom?
4 and 12.
Okay, cut them in half, 4 and 12.
Then
1/3. There we go. 1/3 of a day should have been our answer there for number 17. And then Ben, number 18. 500 years. How many centuries?
5.
5 centuries is correct. How many perfect on 13 to 18? All right, other than 17, which we've already looked at, any other questions on 13 to 18? If you haven't finished 19 to 24, take just a moment to do 19 through 24. If you haven't finished 19 through 24, take a moment to finish 19 to 24. Pencil down when you're finished, just so I know that everybody's done, since several of you already have worked ahead. So pencil down once you've got them. Anyone need more time on 19 to 24? A couple of you, okay? Now take just another minute to work on these. Yes. It makes it faster because you don't have to specify AM. Because otherwise, you're like, there can be confusion. Imagine the troops are coordinating an attack for 8 o'clock, and half the troops arrive at 8 a.m., the other half arrive at 8 p.m. That's not going to work too good because you need everybody to work in unison. So I think that's the biggest reason. Head off hand, that'll help you even more. There you go. If you have to hold your head up on your own, it keeps you from falling asleep. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at these together. Number 19, 5.2 hours, how many minutes? Kirsten?
312.
312. Number 20, 2 years, probably how many days? Griffin?
1,030 for 20.
For number 20, how many days in a year?
365.
So we just multiply by 365, and we don't get something in the thousands here. Corey, help him.
730.
Why would I say probably 730 days in those 2 years? What do you think, Michael?
Because it's a half day.
Well, I mean, if you're going by the solar year, yes, it would be closer to 730 and a half days. But if we're just going with the calendar year, right, 365, wouldn't it just be 730? What could potentially throw that off? If one of the 2 years class happens to be a leap year. Now, I will say this, for consistency's sake, if they said 7 years, how many days? Just multiply by 365. But understand, if you've got a 7-year period, at least one of those 7 years has to be a leap year, right? Possibly 2 of them. In fact, very likely 2 of them are leap years. But for our purposes, we'll just multiply by the 365. But yeah, 730 days is the correct answer. But there is that, well, what if one of those 2 years was a leap year? Then would it not be 731 days? Anyway, number 21, 500 minutes. How many seconds? Let's go back to Griffin.
30,000.
30,000 seconds is correct. Number 22, 9 months. How many years, Elaine?
3/4.
3/4 of a year. 9/12 has to reduce down. Number 23, half a leap year. How many days, Jalen? 183 days. And the number 24, 7 weeks. How many days, Ben?
49.
49 days. Excellent. Questions on 19 to 24. By the way, Michael had the question. He was asking about the 24-hour time on the, bless you, I saw that one coming, the 24-hour time on the previous page, and where they, instead of 7:45 a.m., they would call it 07:45 hours. And he said, why do they do the military time? Like, why even? How many have gotten a watch that you buy from the store, a digital watch, and you're excited about your new watch, and you realize one afternoon, it's weird, and it's doing the military time or the 24-hour time? And he said, why would they do that? The answer there, pretty straightforward. It keeps you from having to specify AM, PM, right? You don't risk somebody getting confused. Oh, I thought you said it would be such and such AM. It's PM. If it's military time, you don't have to worry about it at all and drop that label. That also allows them to take the colon out of the middle of it and just run it off with 4 digits, allows them to be lazy. So there's something to be said for that. It is a little hard for us, though. You know, it's like at 16 o'clock. Let's see, when would be 16 o'clock, class?
4 o'clock.
4 p.m. is what we call it. They call it 1600 hours, right? And that's the way that they would express it. So a little obnoxious. I will say this, when I set the bells are based on 24-hour time. So any bells that ring in the afternoon, starting at 1 o'clock, I have to set them to 13 hours and so many minutes. And anything in the 2 o'clock, 14 hours, so many minutes. And 3 o'clock, 15 hours, so many minutes. And we don't usually have bells ringing after 4 o'clock, so we don't have to go that far. But anyway, it's convenient, I suppose, in some ways. Here in the U.S., we like AM and PM. By the way, quick question. What does AM stand for, those 2 letters? Sam?
Oh,
I think I know.
I think I know.
What does AM stand for? Kirsten seems pretty confident.
I thought. Oh my goodness, it has something to do. I've heard it before. I forgot.
She seems she's fading here. Michael?
Aftermath.
Aftermath. No.
Is it all at morning?
Not at morning. It stands for, if you want to write this in your book, it might, I don't know, Jeopardy question one day. Antemeridian. Antemeridian. I think you talked about this in English class. Ante, this prefix means before, right? Ante means before. What does meridian mean, class?
Time.
Noon. Noon. So meridian means noon. So if you're writing to express noon, remember, I think you learned this in English class, you would write it 12 M. Not 12 AM, not 12 PM, 12 M. Does anyone in America know what 12 M stands for? I mean, now you do, but most people don't. So we say in English, remember, just write noon. But ante means before, meridian means noon. So what does, Kirsten, PM stand for?
Porphyry?
Prime meridian.
Not prime meridian.
Post
Post
meridian.
meridian. Post meridian. And the post simply means after noon. So PM, afternoon, and noon, of course, just being meridian. So if you had 12 o'clock PM, that actually means midnight. The problem is if you say 12 PM, people don't know quite what you mean. Do you mean noon or do you mean midnight, right? So the better way to say it is just simply to say midnight. And I believe this is something that your English teacher was teaching you way back at the beginning of the year, proper ways to write things. If it's 12, just say noon or midnight. Don't try to confuse the bajunior out of us, because nobody can figure out what 12 o'clock is, because it's right in the middle, right? So noon, midnight, but anything in the afternoon class is PM, which stands for post meridian, and AM stands for ante meridian. By the way, antecedent, right? Ante means before. The antecedent comes before the consequent. Yes, ma'am.
Whenever I was younger, I would always think that AM would stand for at morning and the PM would stand for past morning.
If you want to remember it that way, that's not what it stands for, but if you want to remember at morning and past morning, I guess that works okay. All right, good. Other questions, comments on that? Yes?
And about the military time, the 24-hour thing, my dad used to be in the military, so that's kind of convenient for me.
You're kind of used to it, all right. How many do have military families, military parents? So several of you are retired military in some cases. So yeah, so several of you are used to that. Anyway, we're, by the way, for those watching, we're here in Columbus, Georgia, the home of Fort Moore, which is one of the biggest infantry army forts in America. And we do, we train the Marines here on tanks. Most people who learn how to jump from planes They learn to jump here at our jump school. So anyway, yes, sir.
My mom's active duty and my dad's retired.
Yep. All right.
I have, my granddad was in World War II.
That's cool. Grandparents in World War II. Wow.
My great granddad was in the Vietnam War.
Now, how many have grandparents or parents who fought Vietnam War? Several, or in the Vietnam conflict there. All right. Homework for this evening. Homework for this evening. We're going to wrap it up a little early for a change. Keep you late often enough, so we'll wrap it up a little early. Have just a few minutes to get a head start on your homework. You're going to do page 228. Page 228, numbers 1 to 14. Page 228, numbers 1 through 14. Take a look at that tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Work on that till the bell rings, and then you'll be dismissed.